The sun hung low over the barren wasteland, casting long shadows across the cracked earth as two young warriors stood facing each other, their breaths heavy with exhaustion. Trunks, his lavender hair matted with sweat, clenched his fists, his blue eyes burning with determination. Across from him, Goten, his spiky black hair glistening in the fading light, wiped a trickle of blood from his lip. The air crackled with energy as the remnants of their last clash still lingered. This wasn't just another sparring session. The two half-Saiyans had been training relentlessly for months, pushing their limits to prepare for the looming threat of a new enemy, an ancient force that had resurfaced after centuries of slumber. Rumors spoke of a warrior with power rivaling the gods, a being who had already laid waste to entire civilizations. The Z fighters couldn't afford to be caught off guard. Goten smirked, his usual playful demeanor replaced by fierce resolve. "You're holding back, Trunks. We both know we need to go all out if we want to stand a chance." Trunks nodded, his grip tightening on his sword. "Fine. But don't blame me if you can't keep up." With a sudden burst of speed, Trunks lunged forward, his blade gleaming as he slashed horizontally. Goten barely managed to flip backward, the edge of the sword grazing his gi. Landing gracefully, Goten retaliated with a rapid flurry of ki blasts, each one exploding against the ground as Trunks weaved through them effortlessly. The ground trembled as Trunks powered up, his aura flaring gold as he transformed into a Super Saiyan. "Now we're talking," Goten shouted, his own hair spiking upward as golden energy enveloped him. The two clashed mid-air, fists colliding with enough force to send shockwaves rippling outward. Goten ducked under Trunks' elbow strike and countered with a spinning kick, his heel connecting with Trunks' ribs and sending him skidding across the battlefield. Trunks grinned through the pain, using the momentum to flip onto his feet. "Nice hit," he admitted, before vanishing in a blur of speed. Goten barely had time to react as Trunks reappeared behind him, delivering a crushing axe kick to his shoulder. The impact drove Goten into the ground, cratering the earth beneath him. Dust billowed into the air as Goten coughed, but his eyes still burned with defiance. "You're gonna have to do better than that," he taunted, before erupting with energy and launching upward, his fist colliding with Trunks' jaw. The fight raged on, each warrior pushing the other to their limits. But just as their battle reached its peak, a deafening explosion rocked the landscape. A massive energy blast tore through the horizon, sending both fighters sprawling. Smoke and debris filled the air as a sinister laugh echoed across the wasteland. From the dissipating smoke emerged a towering figure, his crimson eyes gleaming with malice. "Pathetic," the stranger sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "Is this the best Earth's defenders have to offer?" Goten and Trunks staggered to their feet, their muscles screaming in protest. "Who the hell are you?" Trunks demanded, his sword raised defensively. The stranger smirked. "I am Vexor, the last of the Shadow Dragons. And today, your world ends." Before either could react, Vexor lunged with impossible speed, his fist slamming into Goten's chest with bone-shattering force. Goten gasped, blood spraying from his mouth as he was sent flying into a cliffside, the rocks crumbling around him. "Goten!" Trunks screamed, his body surging with rage. Vexor turned to Trunks, his grin widening. "Your turn," Trunks roared, his power skyrocketing as his hair elongated, his aura erupting into a blazing inferno. Super Saiyan 3. The ground quaked beneath him as he charged, his sword swinging with blinding speed. Vexor merely sidestepped, landing a brutal kick to Trunks' gut that sent him crashing into the earth. As Trunks struggled to rise, Vexor loomed over him, raising a hand charged with dark energy. "Farewell, half-breed." The blast surged forward, only for Goten to appear in a flash, shielding Trunks with his own body. The explosion engulfed him, the sheer force obliterating everything in its path. When the smoke cleared, Goten lay motionless, his body broken. Trunks' vision blurred with tears as he cradled his lifeless friend. A primal scream tore from his throat, his rage igniting like never before. His golden aura erupted violently, his power surging beyond its limits. Vexor's smirk faltered as Trunks rose, his eyes burning with an unquenchable fury. "You will pay for this." The words were a whisper, but the promise behind them was absolute. The battle had only just begun. The battlefield lay in ruins, smoke curling from shattered rock as Trunks knelt beside Gohan's lifeless body, his hands trembling. The air crackled with residual energy, the scent of burnt earth thick in his throat. Across the field, the mysterious warrior, cloaked in shadows and radiating malice, grinned, his crimson eyes gleaming. "Pathetic," he sneered, flexing his clawed fingers. "The mighty Saiyans, reduced to corpses." Trunks' breath hitched, his vision swimming with rage. The memory of Gohan's last words, "protect them," echoed in his skull. His fists clenched, nails biting into his palms as golden energy erupted around him, his hair lengthening, his aura spiraling into the unmistakable form of Super Saiyan 3. The ground quaked beneath him, debris lifting into the air as his power surged. "You'll pay for this," he growled, voice distorted by raw fury. The warrior merely chuckled, raising a hand. Dark energy coalesced into a swirling vortex, and from its depths emerged a hulking figure, Broly, his eyes vacant, his muscles twitching with unnatural energy. "Meet my newest puppet," the warrior taunted. "A legendary Super Saiyan, reforged for my will." Trunks' stomach dropped. Broly was supposed to be dead, yet here he stood, a mindless weapon. Before he could react, Broly lunged, his fist connecting with Trunks' gut, sending him skidding across the battlefield. Rocks shattered under the impact as Trunks coughed, struggling to rise. Nearby, Goten and Piccolo arrived, their faces etched with horror. "Trunks," Goten shouted, darting forward, but Piccolo yanked him back. "Wait, something's wrong with Broly." Broly roared, his green aura exploding outward, uprooting trees and sending boulders flying. The Dark Warrior smirked. "Let's see how long you last." Trunks wiped blood from his lip, forcing himself upright. "Goten, distract him." "Piccolo, if you've got any tricks, now's the time." Goten nodded, transforming into a Super Saiyan and firing a rapid volley of ki blasts. Broly swatted them away like insects, but the distraction gave Trunks an opening. He teleported behind Broly, driving his elbow into the berserker's spine. Broly staggered, howling, before whirling with a backhand that Trunks barely dodged. Piccolo weaved hand signs, murmuring an incantation. Special beam cannon. A spiraling beam lanced toward Broly, piercing his shoulder. Broly snarled, yanking the energy spear free as if it were a splinter. The Dark Warrior sighed. "Disappointing. Perhaps I should help." With a snap of his fingers, the ground split open, revealing a horde of bioengineered demons, twisted hybrids of Cell and Frieza's DNA. They screeched, charging the trio. Goten gasped. "What the hell are those things?" Trunks gritted his teeth. "Just more monsters to crush." He launched himself into the fray, his Super Saiyan 3 energy cleaving through the swarm. Goten followed, his Kamehameha wave incinerating a cluster, while Piccolo's stretchy arms snagged others, crushing them mid-air. But Broly wasn't idle. He grabbed a boulder the size of a house and hurled it at Piccolo, who barely erected a barrier in time. The impact sent him sprawling. Goten tried to flank Broly, but the berserker caught him by the throat, lifting him effortlessly. Trunks' heart pounded. "Let him go." He vanished, reappearing with a double axe handle strike to Broly's wrist. The grip loosened just enough for Goten to twist free, gasping. The Dark Warrior clapped mockingly. Touching. But futile. He raised his hand again, and the sky darkened. A massive energy sphere formed above them, crackling with black lightning. "Let's end this." Trunks' mind raced. They were outmatched. But then, a familiar voice cut through the chaos. "Need a hand?" Vegeta landed beside them, arms crossed, his smirk sharp as ever. "Took you long enough, Dad," Trunks snapped. Vegeta's eyes narrowed at Broly. "Humph. I'll handle the freak. You deal with the clown." Without another word, Vegeta blasted toward Broly, their collision sending shockwaves through the battlefield. Trunks turned to the Dark Warrior, his resolve hardening. "This ends now." The warrior grinned. "Oh, it's only beginning." As the battle raged, none of them noticed the shadowy figure observing from the cliffs, a familiar face, now twisted by vengeance. The true puppet master waited, his own game just unfolding. The battlefield was a wasteland of smoke and craters, the air thick with the scent of scorched earth. Trunks knelt beside Gohan's lifeless body, his hands trembling, his breath ragged. The sight of his best friend's broken form sent a wave of fury through him, hotter than any flame. Across the field, the masked figure who had struck Gohan down stood motionless, their aura pulsing with an unnatural darkness. You monster!" Trunks snarled, his voice cracking. The figure tilted their head, amused. "Sentimentality is weakness," they replied, their voice distorted, almost mechanical. "And weakness deserves annihilation." Trunks' fists clenched so tight his nails drew blood. The grief was unbearable, but beneath it, something else stirred, a power he hadn't felt since he was a child, watching his father fall. His hair flickered gold, then erupted into a blazing aura as he ascended to Super Saiyan. But it wasn't enough. The enemy laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Is that all? Pathetic." With a flick of their wrist, a shockwave sent Trunks crashing into the rubble. Bones cracked. Vision blurred. Desperation clawed at him. Then, a voice, soft, but clear, cut through the haze. Trunks! Don't give up. Gohan's whisper, weak but defiant. His fingers twitched, his eyes barely open. You're stronger than this. Stronger than him. The words ignited something primal. Trunks remembered training with Gohan, the endless hours pushing their limits. The promise they'd made, to protect Earth, no matter the cost. His body burned, his scream tearing through the battlefield as his hair lengthened, his muscles swelled with raw power. Super Saiyan 3. The enemy finally stepped back, their confidence wavering. Impossible. They muttered. But Trunks didn't hesitate. He lunged, fists a blur, each strike fueled by grief and rage. The enemy blocked frantically, but Trunks was faster, stronger. He landed a crushing blow to their gut, sending them skidding across the ground. For the first time, fear flickered in their eyes. Then, betrayal. A blast of energy seared through Trunks' side. He gasped, stumbling, as another figure emerged from the shadows, a familiar face, one he'd trusted. You? Trunks choked out. The traitor smirked. Did you really think this fight was just about power? This was always a trap, for you. The masked enemy rose, their laughter now joined by the traitors. The realization hit Trunks like a hammer, they'd been playing him from the start. Gritting his teeth, Trunks forced himself upright. Blood dripped from his wounds, but his resolve hardened. If this was a trap, he'd break it. If they wanted a monster, they'd get one. With a roar, he unleashed a Kamehameha, the sheer force tearing through the battlefield. The traitor barely dodged, but the masked enemy wasn't so lucky, their armor cracked, revealing a glimpse of something beneath, not flesh, but machinery. A revelation. You're not even alive, Trunks breathed. The enemy's mask split further, exposing glowing red eyes. No. We are the future, they hissed. And you are obsolete. The ground trembled as more figures emerged, clones, drones, an army of artificial warriors. The odds were impossible. But Trunks smiled. Because now he understood. This wasn't just a fight. It was a war. And wars weren't won with strength alone. He glanced at Gohan, who nodded weakly. A plan formed, reckless, desperate, but their only chance. Cover me, Trunks muttered. Gohan forced himself up, his body trembling but his spirit unbroken. As the enemy advanced, Trunks focused every ounce of his energy, his aura flaring brighter than ever. This wasn't just for revenge. It was for survival. For the future. And as the battlefield erupted in chaos, one thing was certain, the fight had only just begun. The battlefield trembled as Trunks stared in horror at the lifeless body of Goten, his best friend, lying motionless in the dirt. The enemy, a monstrous warrior clad in black armor, sneered as he wiped Goten's blood from his gauntlet. Pathetic, he growled. Is this all the legendary Saiyans have to offer? Trunks' hands clenched into fists, his entire body shaking with fury. The air around him crackled as his golden aura erupted, his hair flickering between gold and the faintest hints of blue. You'll pay for that, he roared, his voice raw with grief and rage. The enemy merely chuckled, cracking his knuckles. Come then, boy. Let's see if you can do better. With a thunderous boom, Trunks launched forward, his fist slamming into the enemy's jaw with enough force to shatter mountains. The armored warrior skidded back, but his smirk never faded. Good. Now we're getting somewhere. He retaliated with a brutal knee to Trunks' gut, sending the young Saiyan crashing through a cliffside. Rocks rained down as Trunks forced himself upright, spitting blood. His muscles burned, but the pain was nothing compared to the fire in his heart. The enemy lunged again, his movements a blur, but Trunks was ready this time. He ducked under a crushing elbow and countered with a spinning kick that sent his opponent reeling. The ground beneath them fractured as they traded blows, each strike echoing like thunder. Trunks could feel his power surging, his body straining against its limits. He remembered Goten's laughter, their training sessions, their unbreakable bond, and with a scream that shook the heavens, his golden aura exploded outward, his hair lengthening, his muscles swelling with newfound strength. Super Saiyan 3. The enemy's eyes widened. Impossible. But Trunks didn't give him time to react. He vanished, reappearing above his foe with both fists raised. A devastating hammer blow sent the warrior crashing into the earth, creating a crater miles wide. The enemy coughed up blood, his armor cracked, but he wasn't done yet. With a snarl, he unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, forcing Trunks to weave and dodge, the explosions lighting up the sky. Trunks gritted his teeth, his energy reserves draining fast. Super Saiyan 3 was powerful, but unstable, he couldn't keep it up forever. He needed to end this now. Channeling every ounce of his rage and sorrow, he gathered energy in his palms, a swirling vortex of power forming between his hands. The enemy scrambled to his feet, sensing the danger. No. You won't. He fired a massive energy wave, but Trunks didn't flinch. With a final, deafening roar, he unleashed his attack. Final flash. The two beams collided, the shockwave tearing apart the landscape. For a moment, it seemed like a stalemate, until Trunks pushed harder, his scream piercing through the chaos. His blast overwhelmed the enemies, engulfing him in a blinding inferno. When the light faded, only silence remained. Trunks dropped to his knees, his transformation fading, his body spent. But as he looked at Goten's still form, his victory felt hollow. Tears welled in his eyes. I'm sorry. I wasn't strong enough. Then, a faint glow. A familiar voice. Hey, crybaby. Trunks' head snapped up. Goten was smiling weakly, his body surrounded by a soft golden light. You really think a little scratch would take me out? Trunks choked out a laugh, relief flooding through him. The battle was over, for now. But as the dust settled, a shadow loomed in the distance. The real fight was just beginning. The battlefield trembled as Trunks screamed, his voice raw with grief and fury. Before him lay Gohan's lifeless body, his chest torn open by the monstrous energy blast from the shadowy figure towering above them. The air crackled with residual power, and Trunks' fists clenched so tight his nails drew blood. His golden aura flickered, then surged violently as memories of their training, their laughter, their unspoken bond flashed through his mind. You'll pay for this, he roared, his hair lifting as his power spiked uncontrollably. The enemy, a being of pure malice known as Zyrax, merely smirked, flexing his clawed fingers. Pathetic. Another Saiyan brat to crush. Trunks lunged, his movements a blur of desperation and rage. His first strike connected with Zyrax's jaw, but the monster barely flinched, countering with a brutal knee to Trunks' gut. The impact sent him skidding across the ruined earth, his body screaming in protest. He coughed blood, but his eyes burned with defiance. You don't understand. What you've taken from me. His aura flared again, gold lightning arcing across his skin as his hair lengthened, his muscles swelling with untamed power. The transformation was unstable, raw, his body wasn't ready, but his heart refused to yield. Zyrax's amusement faded as Trunks ascended, his energy ripping through the battlefield like a storm. Super Saiyan 3? The words dripped with disbelief. Trunks didn't answer. He was beyond words now. With a thunderous boom, he vanished, reappearing behind Zyrax in an instant. His fist drove into the monster's spine, sending shockwaves through the air. Zyrax howled, twisting midair to retaliate, but Trunks was faster. He dodged, weaving through Zyrax's strikes like a phantom, each counterattack landing with devastating precision. Bones cracked. Blood sprayed. The ground beneath them shattered under the force of their clash. But Trunks' power was fleeting. His body, unprepared for the strain of Super Saiyan 3, began to falter. His movement slowed, his breath ragged. Zyrax sensed the weakness and grinned, driving a clawed hand through Trunks' shoulder. You're just delaying the inevitable, he sneered. Trunks gritted his teeth, his vision swimming. He thought of Gohan's last words, protect them. And something inside him snapped. With a final, desperate surge, he grabbed Zyrax's wrist and unleashed a point-blank Kamehameha. The beam tore through Zyrax's chest, vaporizing flesh and bone. The monster's scream was cut short as his body disintegrated into nothingness. Silence fell. Trunks collapsed to his knees, his transformation dissolving. The battlefield was a wasteland, but the sky was clear for the first time in years. Distantly, he heard footsteps, Bulma, Piccolo, the others rushing toward him. Tears blurred his vision as he looked at Gohan's body. I did it, he whispered. But the victory tasted hollow. Days later, the world began to heal. Trunks stood at Gohan's grave, his hands shaking. Bulma placed a hand on his shoulder. He'd be proud of you, she said softly. Trunks nodded, but the weight of loss was heavy. Yet, in that moment, he understood something crucial. His fight wasn't just for vengeance. It was for the future Gohan believed in. The universe had changed. The last shadow of tyranny was gone, and though scars remained, hope flickered anew. Trunks took a deep breath, his resolve hardening. He would honor Gohan's sacrifice. He would ensure their world never fell to darkness again. The battle was over, but the legend of their struggle would echo through time.